Are you scared of flying? Well, Heathrow Airport thinks it's come up with the solution by playing you sounds of aeroplanes taking off and suitcases rattling as you ready to board your plane. I'll be talking to the Telegraph's resident aviophobe, our own Tim Stanley, about whether it works.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't. In fact, it's the sound of nightmares. It doesn't work, and I'll tell you why it doesn't work. If you're terrified of flying, you're trying to think about anything other than flying. So to have them actually pipe in the sounds of flying is really very strange. Those are the noises I associate with death.
Well, if you happen to be travelling through Heathrow this summer, you might hear, in fact you will hear, the sound of jet engines and the squeak of suitcases as the soundtrack to your travels, because starting this week, the airport's begun looping a 4-minute Ambient Soundscape, I believe it's called, Tim, which is crafted entirely from more than 50 actual recordings made around the airport, which includes engines, scanners beeping, tannoy announcements for gateboarding. And this has all it's been done by a Grammy-nominated artiste called Jordan Rakei, who is hoping this immersive loop is going to soothe people's holiday nerves and also ramp up the excitement for people before they get on board. Well, before we find out whether it might work, Tim, let's just have a little clip.
Okay.
Well, Tim,
Yeah.
as someone who is not exactly a fan of flying, is that something which makes you feel relaxed and
It
ready to
doesn't
get on
work.
board? Oh,
It doesn't work, and I'll tell you why it doesn't work. If you're terrified of flying, you're trying to think about anything other than flying. So to have them actually pipe in the sounds of flying is really very strange. Those are the noises I associate with death, but they have combined them with a hint of a 90s rave, plus the organ that you might hear in a crematorium. Look, what are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to play? I mean, the classic is the Flower Duet from Lakme. That's what planes generally play. They try and play, and that's the sort of thing I listen to when I get on a plane. So
you were telling me earlier you listen to Baroque music to prepare yourself.
I do. I pick out things like Handel, really cheerful music, which doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to sit there and listen to the Ride of the Valkyries, you know, because again, you just want something that really calms you down. I also quite like Japanese music from the 1960s. Sort of, there's a wonderful Japanese version of Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini, but it's sort of sung in a Japanese voice with Japanese lyrics, and I always play that before takeoff.
Can you tell us what it's called in Japanese?
No, I can't, not without sounding monstrously racist. But I just listen to sort of banal, silly stuff like that. What I don't want being piped into my ears is the sounds of sounds that I just associate with the headline mid-air catastrophe.
Right. Have you what? So I love flying.
Yes, this is interesting.
Yeah.
We're the complete opposite. We're chalk and cheese on this. You actually really enjoy it.
I do. Well, I do. Yeah. Partly because always feels like it's the start of an adventure, or at least something fun.
Yes.
I've flown in all sorts of. I like flying in helicopters if I get the chance. I've flown in a Lancaster bomber, which is one of the highlights of my life.
You've got like a 1 in 2 chance of dying if you fly in a helicopter. I wouldn't do that if I were you.
It's a lot safer than riding a motorbike. I can tell you that for definite. So we're opposites. And I mean, I love the smell of aviation fuel when I get to the air. Like that really sort of gets my adrenaline going. And
you love the flammable smell.
I do.
Of engine oil.
do. I also quite like the smell of petrol because I love cars.
Right,
Anyway,
right.
have you ever? You were telling me before we came on about all the different things you've tried. You've been through the whole list, haven't you, of supposed cures?
And people always say to me, have you tried hypnotherapy?
Yeah.
Yes, of course I tried hypnotherapy. I went for several weeks. I just regarded it as a very expensive nap. It was great. This very nice lady talked me through it. We discussed my anxieties, issues with my father. She started talking. I fell asleep. I woke up 30 minutes later. Anything could have happened during that period. It turns out I'm a very suggestible person.
Yeah.
But then having been through all of that, having been trained to go to the airport and say certain words and be very calm, ultimately when I sat down and put the seatbelt on, I just thought, I'm going to die screaming. No amount of preparation can really take that. It's like giving someone therapy before going to the guillotine. Here are some techniques to cope with the electric chair. Once you sit down in it, you still think, I'm about to die.
They probably do have that. So you've tried other things as well, haven't you?
What else have I tried? Well, I've tried alcohol.
Right.
I've tried prescription medication. It's a little bit easier when you're flying with someone. It's actually much easier if you fly with someone who's even more frightened than you.
Right.
So I once, coming back from Russia, was with my mother, and I'm okay at descents for some reason because it's coming to an end. And it was one of those.
That's the bit where you're going to die, though. When you
I
hit
know
the
that's why
ground.
you stand the biggest chance. Don't get me wrong. I know all of this is irrational, but as we were coming down, it was so windy, it took off again, and my mother almost gave birth to a kitten.
Wow.
And in that weird moment, I achieved a state of zen, and I was saying, "It's okay. There's nothing to worry about." I think maybe if I was to travel with, say, children, where I had some responsibility.
Okay.
But I think particularly being by yourself, you just think and think and think, and everything about the experience is just wrong. You're trapped in a tin can in the middle of the air, surrounded by awful fat people breathing over you. So there was one occasion where I got on the plane. I went to my seat. There was an enormous man sitting next to me, eating like a multi-pack of Skips. And I had a complete meltdown, and I had to get off the plane. So I found an air hostess or stewardess, whatever we're calling them nowadays, and I said, I'm getting off this plane. And if you just put it very coolly, she just knew I wasn't mucking about. And so she took me to the front, and they had just closed the door. And legally, once they do that,
They have to put you in business class.
It costs them millions to reopen that door. So they said to me, I'm afraid we really want you to stay on this plane. So would you fly business class? And I reluctantly agreed. And it was one of the nicest flights I've ever had.
Wow.
It won't surprise you to
you've done it on every flight since, no doubt.
No, but on that occasion, the pilot even came out and talked to me. And
did he explain to you how a plane stays in the air?
Yes, he did. Yes, and why turbulence is nothing to worry about. And he said the thing we worry about is people smoking in the toilets, which I. But again, that's one of the strangest things about airplanes. It's the one time in your life when you really need to smoke,
right?
And they're hottest on banning it. That's when they really won't allow it. But I think that's one thing that could make it a little bit easier, is if I could light up.
Have you ever worked out what the root of what started this? Was there something that sort of triggered
It's the time
this?
I was on a plane and it fell out of the air.
Right.
No, no, I have no idea. I think it's a scenario which combines many different phobias. I don't think it's just heights. I think it's claustrophobia. I think it's lack of control.
Yeah.
It's, I don't understand this. I don't understand science.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's something God wants us to do. I think we're defying the Lord by flying. So there are lots of different things that are playing at the same time. But you enjoy it, and I don't want to take that away from you. My father loved flying, and the last thing he did before he died was he finally paid for a small plane flight where he got to fly.
Yep.
And he was physically could barely do anything.
Wow.
But he turned up for this lesson, and the pilot saw him and realized this is a very sick man.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take him anyway. I'm going to break all the insurance rules, take all the risks. And so, I do think about that. My father loved it enough that was the last thing he got to do.
Wow.
So I do appreciate that for some people it's a very magical and thrilling experience.
Yeah. Oh, well. Well, anyway, well done for all the times you've bravely boarded a plane to go somewhere on an assignment for the Telegraph.
That's true.
We salute your indefatigability, as I believe George Galloway once said to Saddam Hussein. But anyway, in the meantime, we'll see if next time you're at Heathrow whether it does have the effect that you think or not. But
We'll see. I doubt it.